This is you. You don't remember falling asleep, but now you open your eyes and the first thing you feel isn't relief, isn't peace, isn't the warmth of an ordinary morning. It's weight. A crushing weight pressing down on your chest as if someone placed a marble slab over your sternum while you slept. You blink. The ceiling above you isn't yours. It's a vault of dark, hand-carved wood, with moldings that look like the ribs of some prehistoric animal. It smells of sandalwood, of leather treated with expensive oils, and beneath all of that, something metallic you can't quite identify, as if the walls themselves were sweating coins. The sheets covering you are made of a fabric you've never touched before. Cold at first, but they adapt to your body temperature with an almost organic precision, as if the fabric knew you better than you know yourself. You turn your head and see a nightstand where a phone rests with its screen lit up. There are 143 notifications. Some are from names you recognize from newspaper front pages. Others are from unidentified numbers with country codes you couldn't place on a map. You sit up and your feet touch the floor. Heated marble, neither cold nor warm, simply perfect. And that perfection produces an inexplicable nausea. You walk toward what you assume is a bathroom and find yourself facing a mirror the size of a door. The face staring back at you isn't yours. It's a face you've seen in magazines, in documentaries, on lists where the numbers have so many zeros they stop meaning anything. It's the face of the richest person in the world. And you are inside it. You think it's a dream. Of course you think it's a dream, because that's what the mind does when it confronts the impossible. It domesticates it, wraps it in the soft logic of the dreamlike, so it doesn't destroy you. But then you turn on the faucet, and the water falling over your hands has a brutal clarity. And the soap smells of bergamot, and something woody that costs $200 a bar. And when you look at your hands, these hands that aren't yours, you notice the prominent veins, the age spots, the dry skin on the knuckles of someone who washes their hands compulsively. Not for hygiene, but out of a nervous tic cultivated over decades. And you understand. With the same certainty with which you know gravity keeps you pinned to the ground, that this is not a dream. This is real. And what you feel in your chest isn't wonder, it's terror. Because there's something in the muscle memory of this body, something in the way the shoulders tense at every sound, something in how the eyes automatically scan for exits in every room, that tells you being the richest person in the world isn't a reward. It's a sentence. You leave the bathroom, and the room is bigger than you thought. It's not a room, it's a suite that takes up an entire floor of something that could be a bunker disguised as a penthouse. The windows are made of glass so thick that when you knock on it with your knuckle, the sound is dull, dead, like knocking on the side of a coffin. Bulletproof glass. You look outside and see a city you vaguely recognize, but from a height that turns people into insignificant dots, into data points, into units of a system designed to be observed from exactly this distance. You notice the windows don't open. There's no handle, no mechanism. The air you breathe is recycled, filtered, purified. You can't feel the wind. You can't smell the rain. You live in a sealed capsule floating above the world without ever touching it. And then the phone rings. Not the mobile on the nightstand, but a landline embedded in the wall. You pick up by instinct, and a male voice, efficient and stripped of all emotion, says, "Good morning, sir. Your schedule begins in 45 minutes. The helicopter will be ready in 20. The board meeting is at 9. The senator has confirmed the private dinner. The Jakarta incident has been contained. The lawyers are already on it. The line goes dead. He didn't ask how you slept. He didn't wish you a good morning. He briefed you the way someone reads coordinates to a bomber pilot. You get dressed. The closet is a room unto itself, with suits arranged by color and season, shoes lined up like soldiers in formation, and a drawer of watches where every piece is worth more than the house you grew up in. You pick one at random, and its weight on your wrist is obscene, like wearing a shackle made of white gold. As you button the shirt, you discover something that freezes your blood. Scars. Small, surgical, nearly invisible unless you know where to look. One beneath the left collarbone, where a bullet entered 15 years ago in a parking garage in Bogota. Another on the right side, a memento from a knife in Lagos that the newspapers reported as a traffic accident. A third behind the ear, from reconstructive surgery, after a car bomb detonated 30 meters from his convoy in Beirut. This body has been repaired, rebuilt, maintained the way you maintain a war machine too expensive to scrap and too dangerous to leave unguarded. And when you look at yourself in the mirror again, fully dressed, fully transformed into the public image the world knows, you notice something in the eyes. It isn't coldness. It's exhaustion. A weariness so deep and so ancient, it has stopped being an emotion and become a physical trait, like the color of the iris or the shape of the jaw. This man hasn't truly slept in decades. You step out and a marble corridor leads you to a private elevator where a man in a dark suit is already waiting, earpiece in his ear, hands crossed in front of him. He doesn't greet you. He doesn't look you in the eye. He simply walks half a step behind you, like a shadow with a pulse. In the elevator, there's another man identical to the first. Same haircut, same clenched jaw, same bulge under the left armpit betraying a pistol in a shoulder holster. And when the doors open onto a rooftop, where a helicopter already has its rotor spinning, you count 6 more. 8 people whose sole job is to keep you alive, and not one of them treats you like a human being. They treat you like an asset, like a safe that breathes. One of them hands you a vest that looks like a thin overcoat but weighs nearly 9 pounds. Kevlar, capable of stopping a .44 caliber round at point-blank range. You put it on under your jacket without thinking, and the automatic gesture tells you this body has been doing it every morning for years, the way someone puts on socks. And as you climb into the helicopter and the city shrinks beneath your feet, you grasp the first lesson of this life that is now yours. Extreme wealth doesn't separate you from people out of arrogance. It separates you because if it doesn't, they kill you. The helicopter lands on the roof of a glass and steel building that bears your name. Engraved in letters, 10 feet tall, that gleam like a golden scar on the urban skyline. You're greeted by an army of assistants all talking at once. Figures, percentages, company names, country names, names of people who depend on a single decision of yours to eat tomorrow or to lose everything. They lead you to a boardroom where 15 people are already seated around a table that looks like a corporate altar of sacrifice. Screens on the walls display graphs that rise and fall like the electrocardiograms of a global economy that this body keeps alive or lets die as it sees fit. And when you sit at the head of the table, everyone goes silent. The silence is absolute, religious, terrifying. They look at you the way villagers look at a volcano, with respect, with fear, and with the certainty that at any moment you could destroy it all. The meeting lasts 3 hours, and during those 3 hours, you learn something that churns your stomach with a violence no stench of decay could ever match. You learn that this man's wealth wasn't built, it was inherited. And it wasn't inherited the way you inherit a house or a collection of paintings. It was inherited the way you inherit a genetic disease, a defect in the bloodline's DNA that turns everything it touches into gold and everyone it touches into corpses. This body's grandfather started with mines. Not gold mines or diamond mines, but coltan mines in regions where a human life was worth less than the mineral they pulled from the earth. Workers died by the hundreds. Children of 9 and 10 years old, crawling through tunnels 16 inches in diameter, breathing dust that crystallized their lungs before they turned 20. The mothers sent them because the alternative was starving to death, and the grandfather knew it. And he used that desperation as fuel. He paid $50 per shift. $50 for 12 hours underground, in darkness, in the sticky heat of the bowels of a continent plundered for centuries. And the grandfather didn't kill them. He didn't need to. He simply signed contracts, shook hands with generals who called themselves presidents, and let the system do its work. When he died, they gave him a state funeral. 3,000 people attended. Not one of them had ever set foot in a mine. The father continued the work, but he was smarter, more sophisticated. He understood that the real business wasn't in pulling things out of the ground, but in controlling what people need to survive. Water, energy, communications, food. He bought companies the way someone buys chips at a casino, and each acquisition left a trail of unemployed towns, of rivers contaminated until the locals learned to recognize the orange color of sick water, of displaced communities that appeared in the newspapers for 2 days and then vanished forever. The father dined with prime ministers and lunched with dictators. He financed campaigns on 5 continents simultaneously, not because he cared who governed, but because he needed everyone who governed to owe him something. And when someone refused to play his game, he did something worse than send thugs. He destroyed their economy. He pulled investments, cancelled contracts, cut credit lines, and within months, entire regions collapsed, like buildings demolished in slow motion. The father died in his bed, surrounded by private doctors administering morphine drop by drop, and by a silence that cost $12,000 an hour in legal fees. And now there's you. On the screens you see the numbers. $312 billion in assets spread across 478 companies in 122 countries. Every minute that passes, the fortune grows. Every minute that passes, someone somewhere in the world works 14 hours for a wage that doesn't cover the day's meals, and a microscopic fraction of that effort climbs through the arteries of the financial system until it arrives here, at this table, in this body that is now yours. And the most disturbing part isn't the magnitude of the money, it's that everyone in this room knows it. They know it and they smile. They smile because their bonuses depend on you continuing to sign, continuing to approve, continuing to stare at the graphs without blinking. One of the executives presents a report on human resource optimization at a manufacturing chain in Southeast Asia. Optimization. But when you translate the euphemisms, what it says is they're going to lay off 4,200 textile workers to replace them with machinery that pays for itself in 18 months. And the executive finishes with a smile and a slide showing the projected increase. 1.7% in profit margin. 4,200 lives are worth 1.7%. The meeting ends and you're left alone. Alone with the screen still glowing and the hum of the air conditioning set to exactly 70 degrees. You look at your hands. These hands have signed documents that decided whether a hospital gets built or shut down, whether a town survives or becomes a statistic someone will mention at a conference between canapes and champagne. And you don't feel power. You feel the same sensation a tumor must feel. You are something that grows without control, that feeds on the organism around it, and that knows, on some primitive and horrible level, that when the organism dies, you will die with it. The afternoon arrives, and you discover the second horror. The loneliness. Not the romantic loneliness of poets or the productive solitude of geniuses. The loneliness of the gilded cage. Literal, tangible, suffocating. You can't walk out onto the street without a convoy of 6 armored vehicles. You can't eat at a restaurant without a team inspecting it 3 hours in advance, because 4 years ago, someone tried to poison this body with thallium dissolved in a soup in Geneva. You can't talk to anyone, absolutely anyone, without a lawyer reviewing the conversation afterward for possible leaks, legal threats, or manipulation attempts. Your phone is monitored by your own security team. Your emails are read first by a risk analysis department that works 24 hours a day. Your friends aren't friends. They're strategic alliances with expiration dates. And the people who say they love you, the ones who share your table at charity dinners where $40 million are raised to fight poverty, while $200,000 are spent on the catering, those people love you the way a parasite loves its host, with need, with hunger, with the infinite patience of someone who knows that sooner or later they'll be able to tear off a piece. You go through this body's personal files. You find 3 marriages and 3 divorces, each more expensive than the last. The first cost $180 million in non-disclosure agreements. The first wife signed an 800-page document that forbids her, for the rest of her life, from mentioning this body's name outside strictly factual contexts. She cannot write memoirs or give interviews. The second divorce cost $320 million and the cession of an island in the South Pacific. The third is still in litigation, and the lawyers estimate it could exceed $500 million if it goes to trial. There are children. 4. None of them uses their father's last name in public. One lives in Switzerland under a false name, in a village of 600 residents where he pays in cash and says he's an IT consultant. Another hasn't spoken to this body in 7 years. The third works for an organization that denounces exactly the kind of business practices that fund his trust. And the fourth, the youngest, is barely 16 and has already survived 2 kidnapping attempts. The second was a coordinated operation involving drones and 3 vehicles on a rural road in Scotland. She lives at a boarding school whose location is classified information. And when you read the letters this man has written to his youngest daughter, letters he never sent, piling up in a locked drawer inside a desk that costs more than an apartment, you feel something fracture inside you. Because the letters are tender. They are vulnerable. They are the words of a father who wants to tell his daughter he loves her, that he's sorry for the world he's given her, that he wishes he had been a different man in a different life. But he can't send them. because sending them would mean creating a document that could someday be used against him, that some lawyer could wield in a trial, that some journalist could leak. Love in this life is a legal liability. Night falls, and you prepare for dinner with the senator. They change your suit. Literally, a team of 3 people helps you dress as if you were an articulated mannequin. They fasten cufflinks worth $15,000 and a silk tie that someone wove by hand in a workshop in Naples over 40 hours. The senator arrives with his own security detail, and they sit in a private dining room where the food has been prepared by a chef who charges $800 per setting. And as they eat, the senator talks. He talks about a law that could affect your operations in Southeast Asia. He talks about a regulation your lobbyists have been trying to block for 2 years. And he talks about what he needs. Funding for his next campaign. $25 million channeled through political action committees that bear no one's name. A position for his brother-in-law at one of your foundations. And the guarantee that a certain journalistic investigation involving them both will never see the light of day. He doesn't threaten, because men at that level of power don't need to threaten. They suggest, they insinuate, they let the silence after a sentence do the dirty work. And you, this body, nods, eats, drinks a wine that costs $4,000 a bottle, and says yes to everything. Not because you want to. Not because you care about the senator, or his brother-in-law, or the investigation, but because that's how the machinery works. Every gear needs oil, and the oil is money, favors, silence. You stop being a person at some point during the conversation and become a function of the system, a node in a network that stays alive by feeding on corruption the way an organism feeds on oxygen. Dinner ends, and you return to the penthouse. The convoy of armored vehicles crosses the city, and through the car window, you see what this man sees every night. People sleeping on the street, 1,000 feet from buildings that bear his name. People standing in line at a soup kitchen, while 14 floors above, in an office with his logo, someone is optimizing an algorithm to cut labor costs that will leave 700 families without income next quarter. And the city doesn't know. Or it knows and doesn't care. Or it cares but can't do anything. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. Money rises and misery sinks, like 2 elevators in the same building that never meet. You reach the suite and take off the suit. You look in the mirror. Now you understand why the eyes carry that expression of geological exhaustion. Because this man doesn't sleep. Every night, when the lights go out and the silence grows so thick, you can hear your heartbeat against the $1,000 sheets. The ghosts arrive. Not literal ghosts, but numbers, faces, names of towns swallowed by dams he financed, names of people who lost their homes because a fund he controls decided it was more profitable to demolish than to repair. And the weight returns. That weight in your chest you woke up with this morning, and that you now understand never goes away. You open the desk drawer. There are the letters. And beneath them, you find something that stops your heart. An older envelope, yellowed, bearing handwriting that isn't this body's. It's from the father. You open it with trembling hands and read. And what you read destroys you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's exactly what you would have written. The father tells the son he's sorry, that he didn't want this life for him, that he tried to get him out of the business, that he paid for the best schools, the best universities, that he sent him far away, hoping he'd find his own path. But the last name always dragged him back. Because the last name isn't a name, it's a chain. And the chain doesn't break by running. It breaks by destroying everything. And destroying everything would mean plunging hundreds of thousands of employees into poverty, destabilizing entire markets, ensuring the cure would be infinitely worse than the disease. The father ends the letter with a sentence that drives into your brain like a rusty nail. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to survive. And when you have a child, ask them the same. And then you look at the phone screen. Among the 143 notifications you ignored this morning, there's a message from the eldest son, the one in Switzerland. It says, "Dad, I need to talk to you. It's about Sophia." Sophia is the youngest daughter, the 16-year-old, the one at the secret boarding school. And something in the tone of the message, in the terse urgency of the words, tells you the cycle is about to repeat. That Sophia has discovered something. That Sophia has seen the numbers, the names, the towns, the dams, the soup kitchens 1,000 feet from the buildings with your name. And that Sophia wants to run. The way the grandfather wanted the father to run. The way the father wanted the son to run. The way the son tried to run before the last name dragged him back like a black tide that obeys no moon. You sit on the edge of the bed. The sheets that seemed obscene this morning now feel like a burial shroud. You look at the carved ceiling that resembles a rib cage. You look at the bulletproof windows that turn the city into an unreachable landscape. You look at the phone with the message about the daughter who wants to escape the cage that this body, that this cursed bloodline, built brick by brick, million by million, corpse by corpse. And you understand the cosmic joke. You didn't wake up in the body of the richest person in the world as a reward. You woke up here as a punishment. Because now you know what he knows, that there is no amount of money that can buy a single night of peaceful sleep, that there is no fortune that can pay for the forgiveness of a child who won't speak to you, that there is no number with enough zeros to fill the hole left by knowing you are the monster everyone depends on and everyone despises. And the worst part, the truly unbearable part, is that tomorrow you will get up, put on the suit, board the helicopter, sit at the head of the table, and sign. You will sign because there is no alternative. You will sign because if you don't, someone else will. Someone without letters in a drawer. Without scars proving they were once human. Without the slightest crack of remorse that is the only thing separating you from being a complete monster. And when you die, when this body finally gives out, and the heart stops pumping blood, poisoned with privilege and guilt, they will bury you in a mausoleum costing $2 million, with a bronze plaque bearing your name and the dates of your birth and death. And beneath it, in small letters no one will read, they should engrave the truth. Here lies a man who had everything except the possibility of being free. And as you close your eyes in this bed, worth more than an entire hospital, you hear something. Faint, barely perceptible beneath the layers of bulletproof glass. It's the sound of the city, of millions of people living, suffering, laughing, loving, doing all the things money cannot buy, and extreme wealth does not allow. And that sound, that life teeming out there, and to which you will never have access, is the last thing you hear before sleep takes you. If sleep comes. If it ever comes. Because the richest man in the world doesn't sleep. The richest man in the world just waits for dawn to come, so he can go back to being the machine the world needs and despises. And now, that machine is you.